Thank you for becoming a voice carrier customer. This video overview today is to talk about the porting documentation that we are required to send to our carriers in order to port your numbers over from your current carrier into voice carrier's voice over IP system. This is a quick overview of what we are required to send to the carrier with information from you in order to make this process smooth and transition as easily as possible. The very first thing to mention is that due to the activity through many mergers and acquisitions with multiple carriers over the years, some of the databases have not been updated with the most current information. So if your current provider is CenturyLink, Cincinnati Bell, or Windstream, sometimes their databases have not been updated with the most current information about your location and your billing telephone number. So just be aware that if one of these carriers is who your current provider is with, it may be a little bit more difficult to port the number in some areas, as well as the timing may be a little more extended. Finally, we just need to mention that we do not port any Magic Jack numbers into the voice carrier system. Before we jump into filling out the LOA information, it's important that we address one situation with regards to if you have bundled DSL internet services with your current carrier. We need to make sure that you understand that there's a very big caution with regards to making sure that you move your DSL internet over to a new account number before you port your main number. This is very important because if we actually port that number into our voice carrier system, your internet will no longer work. So please reach out to your carrier, make sure that you understand if you do have bundled DSL internet, that number has been moved to a new account before porting your main number. Let me jump into the LOA and briefly just mention of a couple things. One, this can be filled out directly from your computer using Adobe Reader. Once you open up the file, you can type in your information directly into the blue areas in the form. So let me highlight a couple of things that I think are relevant for you to put in here that will make the transition, again, as I mentioned before, much more seamless, and hopefully to not have the port be rejected due to misalignment of information. So pretty much straightforward, the company name. This is your service address, okay? And it cannot be a PO box. So please, your information has to be the physical address where your number is located, and make sure that all of this information is currently in there is the current information of your physical address. Now, your current service provider or carrier, pretty straightforward. However, if you have multiple accounts, we will need multiple LOA forms from you for those multiple accounts. If you have numbers from different areas or different areas that have different account numbers associated with them, again, you're going to need an LOA form specifically for those multiple service providers to port those numbers in. It should be noted also that this form is for the local and toll-free numbers. Here in the US, there is a Canadian form, so please make sure you're not filling out the wrong form and submitting it to us, because it will get rejected. As I mentioned before, multiple service providers or multiple accounts need multiple forms, and what is really important is that we get the main billing number or the billing telephone number, so they may use either one of these terms interchangeably, for us to provide this to our carrier. This is very relevant information and will help us with that transition, having that number being correct out of the gate. As I mentioned with some of those other carriers, sometimes this can be a little nebulous at best, so make sure that you're finding out the right main billing number or the billing telephone number to put it in this field when you're submitting it. The PIN, password, or the last 4 digits of the Social Security number, these are very helpful for us to process the information. However, if you do not have this information, you do not need to fill them out, but we would request, if you do have the last 4 digits of the Social Security number of the individual that set up the account, again, this is helpful but not necessary if you do not have the information readily available. We also need to know if you're porting all of the numbers on this account. If yes, you will click this form yes, and you do not need to worry about the next set of questions. But if you do select no, we need to understand if you're not going to be porting all of the rest of the numbers on the account, if we need to leave them on the account, if you want to disconnect them, or there's no remaining numbers. So just really relevant that if you have no, that you fill out the second level of information as well. We just need to understand if you have a multitude or range of numbers. Let's say that you have, and they're all in sequential form. That's the real key piece of information here is, let's say you have the last 4 digits of the number are 4000, 4001, 4002, 4003. You could put the 4000 number in here and the 4003 number in here, and we know that there's a range that we need to port within that. Will you use E911 with these particular numbers, as well as any outbound caller ID or CNAM information needs to be filled out in this particular field? The last thing that is important to understand is this a voice or a fax number? If you're going to be using our electronic fax, that number will be ported into our electronic fax service. That will mean the number you will not be using your fax machine. So please make note that if you say this is a fax number, that you will no longer be able to use your fax machine as part of your solution if this is a fax number and we port it into our VFax service. If you are porting a toll-free number, just needs to be initialed here, stating that you are porting a toll-free number. And I've highlighted the fact that if any other features that are associated with your account, they must be removed from the account prior to us being able to port the number. If there's hunt groups or DSL or ringmaster, and we provide this information to our carrier, it's going to reject it due to the fact that there are some additional features that have not been removed from the account during the process. Finally, the last couple things that are very important is that you print your name here. Just type your name in as this, as well as the date. And this is an electronic signature. So you can click on this and it's going to give you a thing where you can either add a file, or you can put in one that's already assessed via a server, or a new digital ID that you want to create now. So all of that is set up here as a digital signature to send to us. Finally, once you've filled out all of this information, what you need to do is come in and save as a PDF. You can put your company name here. Let's say that you're Ron's Towing, and save. And that way, when you send it back to the porting department, we will know that it's associated with your particular account, and it will have all the information that you've saved in this file for us to submit it to our carrier. Again, thank you for working with Voice Carrier and becoming a Voice Carrier customer. If you have any more questions, please feel free to call the porting department. Thank you very much.